Hey guys, I just wanted to give you my review of Legends of Tomorrow, Part 2 of the pilot. So basically what happens is that they find out after the team decides to stick together, they go to so I guess it's like an arms dealer, like an arms bazaar, I think is what they called it or something like that, in Norway of 1975, where Vandal Savage is auctioning off a nuclear warhead. One of the buyers has happened, and as a cameo, one of the buyers just happens to be Damien Dark. I mean, they don't bring like too much attention to that. That's more of something like a geek out moment for people to have, because I mean, none of the characters ever met Damien Dark face to face, so they don't recognize him or don't know that's who he is. But essentially, when Vandal Savage realizes starts to suspect they're not terrorists or real buyers, that the entire team decides to storm the place and attack. And during during one of the Adams fights, a piece of his tech falls off when they're forced to escape, and Firestorm is able to use his powers to absorb the nuclear blast of the warhead. After the Adamet tried to disarm it, it had a failsafe. And like I said, the Adams Ray Palmer's piece of his suit falls off. Vandal Savage uses it, and then Rip Hunter shows them a image of a possible future in which Central City is destroyed from being reverse engineered, from using weaponry reverse engineered from the Atom suit by Vandal Savage. He says that it's only a possible future, and it only takes a while before before the event becomes a fixed point in time, before it becomes permanent, which something that they kind of slipped into, I guess, explain like the time travel logic that for this week's episode of The Flash. You can check out my review. Check out my review of that show for why Barry's mother's death became a fixed point in time, and how Eobard Thawne was still able to come back, in a manner of speaking. Anyway, they realized that the only way to track it is by Dr. Stein, Sarah, and Jax have to go back to the States in 1975 and find Dr. Stein's younger self, who has like an alpha particle tracker to find the missing piece of race tech. And so they run into the younger Dr. Stein, I'm just going to call Marty, who's basically, he seems like the more like easygoing, like kind of pot smoking kid of the 70s, and pretty arrogant, but credit to the actor, he also had some of the mannerisms that Victor Garber brought to the role. Basically, Marty gets not basically. And it's also pretty funny that Marty takes a liking to Sarah, and they start flirting with one another. And Sarah decides to have a little fun in the 70s, and smoke at least she smokes some weed. They go smoke weed with him. I mean, only Sarah smokes the weed, and she ends up taking it with her. And I would think it would be like a funny like in-joke or fan theory if that's what she uses to curb the Lazarus Pit bloodlust, just smoking the doobie. Anyway, they basically, after they find the particle tracker, they have to knock Marty unconscious, but Dr. Stein tries to set an alarm just to make sure that he goes to a school function to meet his future wife Clarissa. But it ends up being kind of this thing where it's like they go back to they ended up ultimately going back to the ship. The ship, or before they go back to the ship, they're able to use the particle tracker to get the piece of race tech back. And Sarah's still able to beat the crap out of half the guys in the room while still stoned, and she can still stoned, and like the other half of the guys is kind of funny. They just kind of stand around just bewildered as what just happened. Like the guy like studying the piece of text doesn't even try to like stop her. I guess for well, understandably, generally he doesn't want to get beat up either. But then when they get back to the ship, it turns out for some reason they decide to carelessly park the ship right by the campus, Ivy Town University. So there's this big light. So when the door opens, it's just basically this big light that shines at the campus. So Marty follows them onto the ship, trying to ask who they are, and it ends up causing a ripple effect in which he doesn't go to the faculty mixer, and Stein's wedding finger fades out of existence because it means he never met Clarissa. And after giving him a tour of the ship, Dr. Stein has a heart-to-heart with Jax, realizing that how much of his frustration towards his younger self is towards the fact that he realizes that he's still just as I mean, in spite of the fact that he's not like, smoking weed and flirting with girls, he seems to be he's disgusted that he's just as arrogant as he was in his youth. That he felt like he hasn't really changed or grown. He hasn't really changed much or grown. But Jax understands that as arrogant as he is, and as arrogant as he can be, as hard as Dr. Stein is on himself as he is on Jax, he knows he's a good person, his heart's in the right place, he's intellectually curious, and wants to use his scientific mind to change the world. And so, Rip Hunter, frustrated about what's happening, and basically Marty's starting to put two and two together. Dr. Stein just convinces him, don't even say what I think you're gonna say, don't even think it, just go have a nice life. And they just escort him out the Wave Rider with the particle tracker. Meanwhile, Ray goes with Captain Cold and Heatwave to the mansion where the dagger that can be used to kill Vandal Savage once and for all, in spite of his immortality, is being hidden. And they get into a conflict because they want to steal, because of course they're criminals. Cold and Heatwave want to steal everything in sight. Ray tries to take control of the situation and tell him we're just here to get the dagger and get out, and they get into a fight in which they end up triggering the alarm, end up getting caught by Vandal Savage, who's the owner of the mansion. And I don't know if they did this for budgetary reasons or if it was deliberately meant to be like an Easter egg, because basically the same exact mansion where Damien Dark lives in present day, which was seen in last week's episode of Arrow, their mid-season premiere. But anyway, because of something that Martin Stein says about the nuclear warheads technology being ahead of its era, is impressive for its era, or something like that, from the Arms Bazaar, that Vandal Savage starts to put two and two together and realize they're from the future, and so he deliberately, and threatening both Heatwave's lives and their lives, that he tells them to contact the rest of the legends and bring them over to the mansions for a fight. Firestorm arrives and blasts Savage and frees Captain Cold and Ray, and the rest of the team basically gears up and just has like this all-out like brawl, like almost kind of like spectacle. Like, it kind of reminds you like watching the Avengers using all their powers and fighting all these like different like henchmen, and it really has like a very cinematic feel to it. I gotta give the show credit for that. And Hawkman tries to use the dagger on Savage to stab him, but then Savage tells him the dagger was only meant for the dagger was a gift to Hawkgirl, only she can use it to kill him. So Hawkman ends up getting stabbed and ends up getting killed by Savage, and Savage absorbs his soul, and then Hawkgirl tries to fight back to avenge him, and Hawkgirl almost gets killed if not for, you know, everybody intervening at the last second and bringing her back to the ship to get medical treatment. I mean, the thing about, I think it was kind of a wasted opportunity. The problem I had was that it just felt like, you know, Hawkman was just kind of like this pushy kind of, we have this past life, so we're destined to be together, so from my chauvinistic attitude and telling you about our past, you will learn to love me. And it's not something that really endears you to the character. And just from past experience, when has a girl ever at all, when has a girl ever been ever gone for the guy who's kind of just basically like he's kind of pushy and trying to like force the relationship? And I mean, I know it's TV, but it's like still like, I don't know. I mean, if it doesn't work in real life, it's something that's not gonna. I don't see it working on the show, or like I said, making him endearing. And I feel like it's the reason, and not just because of that, but apparently he was also spoiled online that he was going to get killed off in this pilot. But the thing is that between that and how long he's been here is like his it just felt like his defining characteristic was like I'm the guy trying to like get back together with the love of my life and reawaken his Honker's memories. Like, he wasn't like very fleshed out, and so his death didn't really resonate with me, and so it just felt like for like this is like second part of the pilot, and they never like took the opportunity to have them like interact, go off in different groups, go off, divide the team up into different subgroups and explore different dynamics with other characters. It was just like the two of them and their history, so it just felt like wasted potential, and just felt like you don't really care Hawkman's death. I mean, that might sound cold, but that's just me. But she really did play but Sierra May did a good job like performing like the agony she felt for his death and saying how she started to remember, she got more of her memories back and remembered how her love for him, and how she never got to tell him how she felt, and then but of course they had to sedate her and put her on they have to like sedate her, and like you said, she's in critical condition. She's still, based on the trailer for next week, she has like she's wearing like an oxygen mask, so I guess she's going to be sidelined for next week's episode, or parts of it. But there's also, I guess, also, like I said, it was cool to see a more like fun side of Sarah and Katie Lotz bring more levity to the role, and how she's like playing off of I like the character dynamic they had with she had with Jax and Dr. Stein. He's being the older uptight guy, and they're being the sort of like the more easygoing, teasing him about stuff, and how he seems so much more laid back as Marty when they first meet him. And also it was kind of cool, but I didn't like it as much. What was kind of cool was the back and forth between Cold and Ray about how Cold is, Captain Cold was like, he doesn't envy Ray being like this millionaire and being on the side of good. Like, he says, like, I'm a survivor. It's like, that's what I do, and sometimes you'll need to learn how to be one too. After Ray makes a comment saying that, in another life you could have been an electrical engineer, use your expertise for good. Overall, it's a pretty good episode. I think it was stronger than the part one of the pilot. I think it was kind of weird that they never. I mean, it was unusual for me that they didn't air this as like a 2-hour premiere. But I mean, it would have felt a little more complete. And in any case, it was a pretty good episode. What do you guys think? If you just let me know in the comments down below. If you like this video, like, share, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.